Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Burns.
Yeah, Nancy Burns here.
And we're from Future Theater. And you know what we like to listen to?
Bang.
Radio on Sunday nights at 9 p.m.
At 9 p.m.?
What
Eastern.
network?
Oh, the best network on the whole entire internet. Inception Radio Network.
You're locked into Inception Radio Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
Ready to Pang your head. Your radio host for Pang Radio, Mike Lucas.
Welcome to Pang Radio. Tonight is Sunday, December 14th, 2014. We got a hell of a good show tonight. UFO researcher Marc D'Antonio will be on with us. I got my sidekick, Ken. It's almost Christmas. Get your shopping done, and let's kick it down. Ho, ho, ho. How you doing tonight, Ken?
Hey, I'm doing fine. I just want our listeners to know that we've got severe storms moving through the area, so any interruption or crackling on my end, we'll blame it on Mother Nature.
Ha, 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 ha. There you go. There you go. Got any shout-outs, Ken?
Yeah, I'd like to say hello to George and Patty and Doug and Lorna. Once again, Lorna, thanks for your suggestions and shows and stuff. Really appreciate it. And to Marilyn and Dick of the Oklahoma UFO Paranormal. I know they're listening tonight. So, guys, thanks for tuning in.
And I'm going to do a double shout-out for Lorna, who helped us set up our guest tonight. She is awesome. She's got some great connections. She's a very, very hard researcher in the UFO field and paranormal field, too, with her group down in the cities there. But
yeah, La Pig.
La Pig, yep. She rocks, and she's getting us these guests, which are awesome. And I got a shout-out to my favorite listener, Deborah Anderson over in Duluth, Minnesota, and that's all I got tonight.
Hey, and Lorna, I know you're listening. I want to say thanks for the disc on the crop circles. I did watch it, and I did learn a lot, and I'm ready for Nancy Talbert when she comes back on for our question and answer session.
I bet you have a whole notebook full of questions.
Oh, buddy, I tell you what, she, I want to pick her brain. I told her that, so you betcha.
Yeah, that'll be a fun show too. We're gonna work on getting her. She does research with Robert I forget his name, but he's from Denmark, and this is the guy that can predict where crop circles are going to show up next. So
yeah, she said she's going to try to get him to come on, and man, that would be dynamite because I'd be really interested in being able to talk with him.
Oh, I know. I mean, Ken is just ripping and raring to go. He's got tons of questions. You've been building them up for 2 weeks. You got probably a whole notebook full.
I do. I'm old school, and George knows what I mean by that. I take cop shorthand notes in my legal tablet, so I fill up the margins and the main space and everything. I write like crazy, and I do. I've got probably 2 pages of questions. So, and we won't get to them all, but by golly, we're going to get to some of them. I can tell you that.
Yeah, we might go to definitely have a part 3. I do have to contact Nancy, and maybe a part 4. We can make this a saga here, and we can definitely get
Yeah, and Lorna had sent me that disc on crop circles, and I'll tell you what it's an interesting phenomenon. Nancy touched on something last time we had her on the show, Mark, and that is, hey, this may be a very subtle way to get people used to the idea that, ET's here. I never really thought of it because that was one of the questions that I had is why do the crop circles?
Mm-hmm.
Why not just beam us a direct line and connect but this maybe they know us better than we know us.
Right.
And so what a subtle way to do what I call field graffiti,
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to read through Mark's bio here for all you listeners so you can get a gist for what Marc does. Marc D'Antonio is the Mutual UFO Network's chief photo video analyst and is the CEO of FX Models, a model-making special effects company specializing in digital physical models and organic in-camera special effects in the film industry. FX Models has done work for all kinds of organizations within and outside the U.S. government. The company has done model work for the United States Navy and the Armed Forces, Joint Chiefs, the White House, and the U.S. Congress. Marc has worked on a number of programs on the networks, including Discovery, History, National Geographic, Science Channels, performing on-camera work in his role as a UFO investigator and video photo analysis. In addition to such roles, he has also created special effect props for use in productions, creating computer-generated sequences, and set up and executed visual effects shots. So Marc is he's really involved with special effects and everything else there.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, that's something that I know very little about, and in today's world with digital and the technology behind the camera lens and everything else, I mean, wow, you can create anything, basically.
Right. It's interesting stuff too, and he does all the photo analysis for MUFON, and I'm sure he's seen some crazy stuff. And would like to welcome Marc D'Antonio to the show. Welcome, Marc.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Oh,
Right on, Marc. Thanks for coming.
Of course. It sounded like it was going to be fun.
Oh yeah. We're laid back guys. We like to have fun, but also are serious about what you guys are doing out there to help with research in UFO field, and it's a good thing you're doing, Marc.
Yeah, indeed. I hope that I hope people really enjoy it, because there's an awful lot to do and an awful lot of places we're going to go with these systems.
Perfect. Now, Marc, what got your interest in the UFO field, if you want to tell our listeners?
Yeah, sure. When I was a little kid, when I'd go outside, I'd look up in the sky, and for whatever reason, I kind of always had this weird feeling like I was almost homesick in a way. So it was sort of a strange relationship I had with the universe early on, and I couldn't explain it. But I knew at age 7 that I was going to end up going to school, getting a degree in astronomy, and working in that field. And that's exactly what I did. Not at age 7, of course, but in later years. So I tuned everything in my life toward learning about the universe. So I ended up spending, I probably spent as many years outside looking at the sky as I have inside of a house. I used to do that so often that I honestly felt weird being inside the house sometimes on a clear night. I couldn't stand it. I had to be outside looking up. And part of it was I want to figure out the mystery of the universe. Another part of it was I knew that we weren't alone. I've always had that feeling. But at the time, I had no science to back that up, and neither did anyone. We didn't have the latest, we didn't have information like we have now with the latest exoplanet discoveries. Exoplanets are my specialty in astronomy. So, an exoplanet is a planet around another star system, or another star, and there can be multiple planets. In fact, it turns out when we look at the universe that there's more planets in the universe than there are stars by statistical determination. We've discovered that, and the really interesting thing about that is I've always felt that was probably the case ever since I was like I said, a little kid. I always felt there were more planets out there, and not just because of Star Trek and Captain Kirk, and although a funny story which I tell fairly often is when I was working for on my astronomy degree on my thesis, one of the things I had to do was a program in an observatory. So I was working in an observatory working on parallaxes, that is the study of nearby stars and their distance determinations. And parallax is a simple thing. When you hold your finger out at arm's length and you close one eye and you see your finger against the distant wall in your house, and you open the other eye and alternate back and forth between your eyes, the finger looks like it's shifting against the background wall. Well, if you imagine your finger to be a nearby star and the background wall to be farther stars, and instead of the distance between your eyes, that distance is actually the size of the Earth's orbit from one side to the other. You can actually determine very accurately to a certain distance out the distance to these nearby stars. And so you can imagine that once we figured out the distances to some nearby stars, the next question was, gee, are there planets around those stars?
Right.
So the nearest star to us is Alpha Centauri. And Alpha Centauri's system is actually 3 stars. You have 2 main stars and then a small one called Proxima Centauri. We can't even see it. It's a tiny little star. However, we think there's a planet around that star. And it may very well be a planet that could possibly support liquid water. We don't know that for sure. We don't even know if it's a real planet yet. But anyway, you can see where I'm going. The bottom line is there were so many discoveries to be made in the universe that once we started getting the tools and once we started seeing that the capability to acquire data on these other places, then I had to really start thinking about the concept of extraterrestrial life. However, that's just part of it. I've also had some experiences which I could not explain. And one such experience was when I was a little kid, probably around 9 or so, maybe 10 or 11. We had a field trip to a local pond, and we were going to go look at fish and frogs and things like that. I remember getting on the bus with my little brown lunch bag, and I remember getting off the bus with my little brown lunch bag after the trip was over. I remember nothing of the in-between, and I still had my lunch. It was like no time had passed. And when I came home that night, I began having seizures, and they had to rush me to the hospital where they discovered that something had happened in my brain to trigger some type of epileptic seizures. I've never had epilepsy then or since. It was just a singular event, and no one to this day can explain why it happened or how it happened. But I could never explain why I don't remember a single thing about that pond trip. Yet everybody in the class sure did, and I remember the bus going to the pond and getting off the bus when we got back. So but nothing in between. It's weird, So that was one thing. And then I've had other events where I actually ended up waking with some sleep paralysis in the middle of the night. And, I'm a fairly lucid dreamer, so I woke up and said, oh, wow, this is sort of a peaceful state of lucid dreaming. Except there was one night after a sequence of 3 consecutive nights where I had been hearing this knocking near the roof of the house, and I couldn't tell what it was. And the first time I heard it, I went back to sleep. The second time I heard it, that was the next day. And the second time that next day, I actually got up and went. I went to the window to look out, and I had to lean over my dogs, which were sleeping under the window. And they were greyhounds, which I had rescued. I'm very happy about those doggies at the time. They're very, very cute animals and very loving. And so I leaned over them and I kind of smiled at them and said, "It's okay, guys. I just got to peek out the window." And I looked out the window, and as I tried to push my head to the screen, because it was a nice August night, I tried to look up, and as I did that, I saw a white flash in my vision that took my vision. It was a flash blindness. Now, you have to understand that I don't look and see aliens in every corner. Okay, I'm not one of those types. I thought I was having a medical event. I thought, oh no, I've detached the retina. Maybe that's what this is happening. But this is. I don't know what this is. And then I started to get my vision back, and I saw that I could see again, and I felt not dizzy, but I felt off. Something wasn't quite right. But that said, I looked down as my eyes adjusted, and I noticed the dogs were gone, and I was like, whoa. This was just a second ago here. Where are the dogs? And the male was in the closet, literally hiding in a pile of laundry. And the female was outside of the bedroom, sitting like a sphinx. They like to sit that way, and just sort of looking in, ears sticking up and highly alert. And I didn't know what that was all about. So I went back to bed. And was like nervous about going back to bed. Probably, don't remember very much about that rest of that night. I don't think I really slept much. And then the next day, I carried on as if it never happened. I didn't even remember it. I mean, it was really remarkable how I suddenly just had no memory. Well, then that third night, it happened again. I woke up, but this time I couldn't move. And I said, oh, I'm in like a hypnopompic state. I'm sort of in that my motor neurons haven't been engaged yet. And I was kind of, at first, I was starting to just sort of like enjoy it a little bit, because I like that state. It feels good, to wake up. It's very relaxing. It's sort of like a meditative state. Well, anyway, as I was doing that, I realized, wait a minute, there's something not right here. Because I'm wide awake now. In fact, I'm so awake, I want to get up now, and I can't move. And my first thought was, oh no, this was a medical problem. What is it? I think maybe I should have gone to the hospital. I was starting to panic because I thought, oh no, I must have somehow, something happened in my head and I should have listened to the warning sign. That white flash last night meant something. Well, anyway, that's when I realized my ears were shut off. I couldn't hear anything, not even the sound of my own breathing or my heartbeat. It felt like I was in between time pulses almost, which I don't think that's what it was. I just think that my ears were shut off. And my eyes were also fixed and frozen in one position. I couldn't move my eyes. That was the most unnerving part of the whole thing. And all I had was peripheral vision. And this was nighttime at some point during the night. I don't know when because I couldn't look at the clock. And I could see the faint outline in peripheral vision of the window where I had looked out the night before, and there was a street light at some distance, and it kind of outlined the window. And then I saw something pass in front of it. And I thought, okay, I'm a scientific type of guy. Maybe this was just a floater in my eye or something. I don't know. All right. However, I began to feel this very strange feeling like something was there. And as I began to feel this way, it's sort of like my lower vision and to the right, that this thing comes walking toward me. I couldn't really see it. It was a dark shape. But it was, it looked like arms, I couldn't see legs, but I saw like a torso and a head. And I can't really even tell you dimensional layout. I mean, maybe my brain was replaying something of a real person coming to me at some point, and there was some kind of glitch in my head or whatever. Who knows, right? But as this thing came toward me, I saw the arm extend, and the arm was very thin. It looked weird. It looked like a stick, like a stick, like a stick insect, and it had this like a rod in its hand, and the rod had a whitish glow. It wasn't bright. It was sort of a subtle white glow. And it passed in front of my face a couple times, and bang, it was morning, and I was sleeping on my belly, and I couldn't breathe. I mean, it was just that quick. And I couldn't breathe, and I pushed off the pillow and gasped for air, and the pillow was totally, and I apologize for this in advance, okay, but it's a little graphic. The pillow was saturated with blood. I mean, saturated. In fact, I realized at that point, I better get to the hospital. I think I must have bled a huge amount here. But I went and I looked in the mirror, and I saw nothing except a little bit of the cake down, the blood that came down out of a nostril, one of my sinus nostrils, the left one. And I thought, wow, I must have had a nosebleed in the middle of the night. But, I absolutely remember what happened, and it was really scary. And when I touched my face, it felt like someone had punched me in the face as hard as they could. And I was like, oh, man, it's like I took an elbow. I used to do Taekwondo for years, and I know what it felt like to get elbowed in the face. Okay, and let me tell you, it felt like that was done 3 or 4 times in a row without me even being able to block it. All right, and I don't like the feeling. Okay,
right.
No one does. I like getting hit in the face. But so as I'm watching in the mirror, and all of a sudden, it was weird. It was as if I suddenly didn't even care anymore, and I just got dressed and I went off to my job. This was before I had started my own company here, so I was working at a consulting company. But then throughout the next day or two, I began to feel very agitated, like violated actually. And so it took me a few days, and I finally, I'm sorry this is going on so long. I hope that
no, you get the chat's listening. It's in.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah. Well, as long as it's not
no,
boring
Mark.
people.
No, Mark, go ahead.
All right, because then the thing that happened next, which was really weird to me, was only after having been, I guess, out in the world again for a day or two, did this all start coming back to me. But when it did, it was like I accessed a memory spot that had been blocked or something. I don't know, It's because you do tend to block traumatic stuff that could scare you or whatever. And I'm no different. I'm no hero. I mean, it was terrifying. I'm absolutely willing to say it. And I know I don't want to ever see it happen again. In fact, if I saw a creature like that come toward me again, I'd wring its neck before coming anywhere near me. Like a turkey. Okay, you're done. I mean, you ain't coming near me, pal.
Hey, Mark, do you think you've been implanted?
Well, there's more of the story, and I'll tell you. So it took me 2 years before I actually went to an ear, nose, and throat surgeon because my left nostril, the very moment that happened, after that blood thing, my left nostril was completely, and sinus was completely blocked for 2 full years. Ooh. And I didn't, why I didn't question it, why I didn't go to the doctor right away, you got me. But when I finally decided to go, I went to the doctor's, and he came in, he looked up in the air, and he says, holy cow, he says, you've got something up there. And I went, oh? And this was Dr. Lehman at Hartford Hospital in Hartford, Connecticut. And Dr. Lehman said, yeah. And he goes, we can numb it and go through a procedure to remove it. And I said, let's do it. So I ended up having him do it right then and there. And he took this thing out. It was encapsulated in a fleshy mass. And he says, this is a huge, he says, sinus polyp. He says, and I guess, sinus polyps are not uncommon. Obviously, there's ear, nose, and throat doctors that take them out exclusively, and okay, so they're there. So I said to him, I go, Dr. Lehman, tell me something. Could such a polyp seed itself around a foreign object? Right? As you can tell, I had known something about implants and so forth. Mm-hmm. So this is where the story takes a weird turn. And he said, you mean like a metal splinter from a machinist or something? I go, yeah, something like that. He goes, yeah, absolutely. I think that could happen. And the body tries to reject it. It encapsulates it and so forth. I said, well, okay, could you check the inside of this one and see if there's anything in there? And he said, why? And I made the mistake of telling him the story I just told you. And he laughed. Oh, he goes, I don't think there's any aliens to worry about here. He goes, ha, 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 ha. And I said, yeah, I know. I go, but just check it out for me, will you? He said, sure, I'll make a note of it. And I saw him write down, please, check interior, look for foreign object. I mean, he didn't say alien anything. He just said foreign object. I saw him write it on this piece of paper. And he sent it down to pathology, which is what they do in the office. It's I do in every office. So he sends it down, and he says, call me in a week. Okay. So a week later, I call him. And let me ask you a question, okay? Sure. When you call a doctor's office, how many times does a doctor get on the phone with you?
Never.
And talk to you?
Never.
You're always talking to an assistant or whatever. I called up, and I said, yeah, it's Marc D'Antonio. I'm calling Dr. Lehman to get a report on that thing he took out of my nose. Oh, yes, hold on. And the doctor got right on the phone with me. And he says, yeah, hi, Mark, it's Dr. Lehman. He goes, I just want to let you know, there's nothing wrong with it. It's a benign thing. You don't have to worry. But there wasn't something quite right in his voice. And I said, well, do you have the report? I'm just curious. I'd like to get a copy of it if I could. And he says, well, I go, wait, what? I started to laugh because I didn't expect this, but, it was just, I figured, my luck is how I was thinking. And he says, well, to be honest, he goes, and like I said, it's benign. He goes, but this has never happened in my office before, but I just got to tell you, I sent it down to pathology. They received it, but apparently they've lost it.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, well, that's what I said. I didn't say, of course. I said, I almost could have guessed something like that. I mean, it was a long time ago. I can't remember exactly what I said, but I remember expressing my discomfort with the fact that it was lost. And he says, but I'm just letting you know it's benign. It's nothing. It was just a regular polyp thing. I go, okay, fine. So I let it go. Okay, now 5 years later, I had to go back to him for something else. And this is when the real my real understanding came out from what he had done or what had happened. So he comes in, he talks to me, does this thing, looks at me, I'm fine, right? He checks me out. And then he goes, so are you still doing that Navy work? And I said, oh, yeah, I'm still doing that. I still do, on occasion I do that, the special Navy work that, we don't really get to talk about. And he says, interesting. And he goes over and he shuts the door of the exam room. I'm sitting on the exam table because he would always leave it open a little bit. It was sort of like sort of a country doctor approach. He kind of ran an open office. It was actually very comforting. It was a good, a good feel for that office. He didn't lock you in the room. The door was always open. And he came in and he sat down on the exam table right next to me. Now, first of all, that was like, okay, this is like getting really awkward very fast. What is this about? He hopped up on the table right next to me, and he says to me, I have to tell you something. And I go, what? He goes, I just gave up my top secret clearance this year. And he laughs. He laughs. Now, I'm looking at him going, in my head, I'm smiling on the outside, and in my head I'm going, you son of a gun, you. I can't believe you. So now I know what happened, okay? The conditions of a clearance are that if anything happens that you think other people should know about, that you need to disclose it under penalty of law. Especially if it has to do with national security or what have you. So I guessed that he probably said that and I can't prove this, no one can, that the pathology group, didn't get it, but he sent it on to somebody else. Whether there was anything there or not, whether there was anything inside of it or not, I believe he probably sent it on to someone else because he had to under the conditions of his clearance. Okay? And he told me how, he was in charge of the only naval group in the Pacific Ocean ever to shoot a satellite out of the sky with a nuclear weapon.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah. And I said, that's against like every SALT treaty in existence. You can't fire nuclear weapons into space, I said. And he smiled and goes, we did it. He says, I was right there. I was the guy in charge of, I forget what he told me, like trajectory or nuclear something or other with it. And I said, but you're a near-nose and throat surgeon. He goes, that was after the Navy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was interesting to hear his whole admission. And it's like, I could tell that this guy was probably just looking for someone to tell that story to.
Oh, yeah.
But he said, yeah, we cleared 1,300 miles of Pacific Ocean, he said, in every direction from our ship. He goes, and I said, you fired this from a ship? I said, how can you can't reach orbit from a ship? And he just smiled. So part of me thinks that part of his story is not fabricated, but just misremembered, perhaps. And there was more going on there than he remembers, or something like that. Because, my background, obviously, I've studied, manned space flight and the conditions which it takes to achieve orbit or to just get something up that high. And I don't think you can shoot something out of the sky like that, from a ship. Okay, but that's what he claimed, and I who knows? But
hey, Mark, let's stop.
Yep.
Let's stop right there and take a break, and we'll be right back to Paying Radio. Marc D'Antonio, and hang in there, everybody.
Hello, Inception Radio Network listeners. This is Amanda. Remember, you can take your Inception Radio shows on the go. Just download the Inception Radio Network app for your iPhone, iPad, or Android smartphones and access live shows, past shows, guest lineups, and much more. Just visit the iTunes Store or the Google Play Marketplace and download it today for free.
Hello, everyone. Lorian Fenton here, host of the California MUFON radio show, asking if you'd like special access to exclusive and amazing information about UFOs, the paranormal, and all things unexplained. If you're nodding yes, then join IRN's Insider Club. As an Insider Club member, you'll get an all-access pass to premier Inception Radio Network content for only $4.99 a month. This includes live UFO and paranormal conferences, live streaming UFO skywatches, exclusive IRN radio and TV productions, and of course, Paying Radio with MJ and Ken Storch. So don't wait any longer. Visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com and click on Member Login to join IRN's Insider Club and get your VIP access today.
Howdy, this is Joe Mars. I'm inviting you to tune in to Epic Voyages, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, Monday nights, right here on Inception Radio Network. To find out more about Epic and how you can become a member, visit epicvoyagers.com. That's EPICVOYAGERS.com.
People, the way things are going, we need a simple, efficient way to keep track of our personal income and expenses. Make the discovery. My Home Accounting is your easy-to-use and learn bookkeeping program. It works with Windows XP, Windows 7 or 8 on your desktop or laptop. Download your no-risk trial copy today from our website at www.myhomeaccounting.ca. And remember, 100% of all sales revenue goes to the Canadian National Institute for the Blind, a registered charity. Again, our website is www.myhomeaccounting.ca.
Tous les dimanches à 21h Eastern, uniquement sur Inception Radio Network.
You're locked into Inception Radio Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
Welcome back to Paying Radio. Tonight we have on Marc D'Antonio. We're talking UFOs, really aliens, everything under the sun tonight. And Ken got a listener question he's going to ask Mark here, so go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, it's Bill from New York, and he asked a really good question. Mark, he wanted to know that do you think moons, for instance, like Europa, are likely to have some type of life form beneath the ice sheet?
Yeah, that is a wonderful question. Thanks, Bill. You know, because my book will be out soon. It's called The Populated Universe, and in that book I talk about Europa, I talk about Saturn's moon Enceladus, I talk about Titan, and I talk about how we seem to be finding the building blocks of life everywhere we look. They're in meteorites that hit the Earth. They hit the Earth with comets that come into our atmosphere and strike the Earth, of which trillions have hit us in the past when we were first developing. Now, Europa is an interesting moon because for its size, we didn't really expect to find what we found, and that is underneath this thick mantle of ice, we found a 100-mile deep ocean. Now, this ocean looks like, based on some of the spectroscopy or the spectral analysis of the moon, looks like it might be highly oxygenated. Now, before you leap to the conclusion of, wow, oxygen, that means there could be fish or other life, we also have to understand that a lot of oxygen in the water can also make water acidic. And so it might be an acid broth under there of sorts, and not like a sulfuric acid, but it could be a little bit acidic, but we don't know. And that's still to be determined. But yes, if you look in the fissures of Europa, the deep cracks, and on the surface you see these brown spots and brown striations. You know, we call those freckles. Okay, we nickname them freckles. Okay, as you know, the explorers of Europa from a distance, right? and these freckles are actually areas where hydrocarbons and other organic type materials are actually percolating through fissures in the ice and coming up and depositing on the surface of Europa. Now, Europa has no atmosphere. So basically, you think of it as negative pressure at the surface. So basically, the water that's underneath the surface is actually being sucked up through those fissures and bringing with it material, okay? Now, in part, it could be that there's pressure inside caused by, Jupiter's gravitational pull, and the differential pull on the moon could be heating up the interior. Well, we know it is. Heating up the interior, it slightly deforms the moon a little bit, and so that can cause some of the cracks and some of the activity we see. But it's really fascinating to understand that we've actually found an ocean deep under the ice on Europa. Now, let's not stop at Europa. Let's look at Enceladus, another moon. It's only 300-plus miles across, Enceladus. And at 300-plus miles across, its south pole shows us geysers, little volcanoes, and these volcanoes are of ice water and of other hydrocarbons. And we're seeing carbon-based compounds spewing all over the South Pole, this tiny little moon that has no business with life's building blocks, but there they are. Titan's the same way. All right, we see the Earth as it might have been in a primitive state, although a lot colder. So the point is, and Bill, that question is wonderful because it really does help to point out that these building blocks, hydrocarbons, amino acids. Okay, remember, amino acids are the foundation of all our life, right? Of course, and the next thing we'd want to find are proteins, okay, and maybe some peptide chains, and who knows what we're going to find when we get out there. We might be able to send a probe out to Europa and discover that deep under the water, well, who knows? We might actually find a species of animal of some kind. Maybe it's a microbe, a microbial life. But either way, there is one term we would have to apply to any life that would live in such an environment. And you know what that term is? It's called an extremophile. Life in those types of environments has to endure hostile conditions that we can't imagine. Just like in our deep oceans. We would never have thought about looking at Europa, by the way, okay, if we didn't find life clustered around these sulfide chimneys deep in the ocean.
Yeah, volcanic events, right?
That is correct. That water's coming out at 900 degrees, and it's laden with minerals, and there's this beautiful hydrogen sulfide bacteria that just love eating this hydrogen sulfide coming out of the vents, and the bacteria are then eaten by other filter feeders and other creatures like those tube worms that are down there, and then the clams, of course, are down there, and the crabs. It creates this little oasis. Now, as that hot spot moves, okay, in other words, as the tectonic plate is moving along the mantle, that hot spot shifts. So you can literally see a trail of the current sulfide chimney on our ocean floor, followed behind by all the ones that were alive at one point and now long since dead. So it's interesting to see that progression when we look on the ocean floor. In the same way you look in the Yellowstone National Park Basin, you can actually track the hot spots where the Yellowstone lava plume is sitting underneath our tectonic plate. You can find all the earlier hot spots where it had poked through and had done things and had even an eruption some years, hundreds of thousands of years ago, and then where it is right now. So, you actually can track that based on our tectonic plate movement. Now, on Europa, there's no tectonic plates, but we do have the gravity of Jupiter pulling and tugging on the planet. That actually deforms it. I say planet, it's a moon. Okay? That actually deforms the planet and makes it a little bit elongated depending on where it is in its orbit. And that puts tremendous stresses and pressures onto the planet, both in the exterior and the interior core, and that heats it up. That heats up the water. That causes things to happen. That causes a convection, perhaps, where there's different currents that are moving. So it's not stagnant water. It's moving. It's doing things. So Europa presents an amazing opportunity for us to go look for a true form of extremophile life unlike anything we've ever seen.
Nice. Very, very, very good, Mark.
Yeah,
now,
interesting.
You have heard, by the way, that we've also discovered that right here on our own Earth, deep under our crust, is a whole nother ocean we didn't even know about. You're aware of that? Oh, you're not.
No,
aware
I wasn't.
Of that.
I wasn't.
Oh, you don't know about the underground ocean now. Wow. Yeah, this was a discovery that was made. Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember the exact date of this discovery, and I can tell you in 2 seconds here because I think it's worth talking about.
Oh yeah.
First of all, just imagine that the oceans we know, they have an ocean floor, right? Okay, now just imagine if you looked and discovered that somewhere far deeper than the bottom of the deepest ocean, you actually have more water. In fact, so much more water that it's 3 times the size of all of our oceans combined.
Holy moly.
Right. And that's what we're actually looking at. And this is water that's sitting right around the just above that upper mantle area on the Earth. Okay, so it's around, say, in some places, say 3 miles under the ocean floor, and in other places it's deeper. Okay, but it's really amazing to consider this and to understand that it's there. Now, the water isn't just sitting there in a big open ocean. It's actually trapped in a mineral down there. But it is a collection. It is not just, a little water here, a little water there. It is a large concentration of water. So it's really a fascinating discovery. And the actual discovery Yeah, I'm trying to look at it. It's like 600 and it was around 620 miles down is where they found it.
Oh wow.
Okay, so if you think about it, that's really way down
That
there,
is.
man.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, pretty warm water.
Oh yeah.
But so anyway, and so I just thought that was kind of an interesting discovery, because here we are on this very planet, and we're reaching out all the way outside the solar system already with Pioneer and the Voyagers already having left the solar system,
Mm-hmm.
and we only just discovered something new about our Earth. It's major
I
in just the last year.
Oh, I think there's more discoveries to come too.
Oh, you betcha.
Oh, yeah.
You betcha.
Yeah. Well, hey, Mark, do you think that ET has been here and is coming here?
Well, that's another good point that I make. I have a talk I do around the country on exoplanets, which is my astronomical specialty, and exoplanets offer us the opportunity to get a statistical guess in place for whether we think there's life elsewhere, life that's intelligent. And based on what we see, we think there might be, just in our own galaxy of 400 plus billion stars, we think we might have, say, between 17 and 20 billion with a B as in Bravo, Earth-like planets. Now that means planets in the habitable zone, the not too hot, not too cold area around their star. That
Goldilocks.
That's correct.
Yeah,
Exactly
yeah.
correct. The Goldilocks zone, where liquid water can be present on the surface of the planet. Now, liquid water was a prerequisite for us. It doesn't necessarily mean it was a prerequisite for other species. But water does have a way of bringing a mixture together in a universe cauldron that seems to generate life. I mean, we cannot deny that, because even the Miller-Urey experiment, and that was carried out in the 50s, illustrated that the primordial atmosphere with water and bombarded with lightning could create amino acids. So clearly, the primordial atmosphere and lightning generated the building blocks of life by itself. So, we have evidence that life probably exists elsewhere. We even suspect that maybe life, intelligent life, could exist. And I do this really cool analogy where I take a whole roll of toilet paper and I illustrate on it the entire history of just the Earth. Now, the Earth is just over a third of the universe's age. Okay? And it didn't, the universe had already existed for 7 or 8 billion years before the Earth formed. So when you look at when you look at the Earth 4.6 billion years ago, and you go the whole 117 feet long of Earth history, we're on the very last sheet, of course, in a line that on a scale of 117 feet is only 0.01 millimeter in thickness. And I did mix up the units on you there, sorry. But 0.01 millimeter in thickness. So really, a hundredth of a millimeter in thickness is the existence of man from ancient Sumer to the present day, 5,000 or 6,000 years ago. Okay. Now that said, what does that mean for extraterrestrial life and whether they could have been here? Well, on that toilet paper history, one of the things you have to keep in mind is that we see a sliding window of planetary formation. We see planets just forming now. We see planets fully matured in their star systems, and we see planets that have survived the death of their stars in our planet hunts. So this means that there's planetary formation and planetary death going on all throughout the history of the universe from, say, just a couple billion years after the universe started. What that means is incredible, because that means that a civilization could have been where we are now 1 billion years ago or 1 million years ago. In fact, it's more likely that it was 1 billion or more years ago because of just the statistical probabilities. It's actually less likely that there's a civilization out there like us exactly. They're either going to be behind us or ahead of us, depending on when their planets formed. So that all said, the question of whether they could be here or not is, I answer that this way. Well, not only could they have been here if you look at just our statistical projections, they could have been here multiple times.
Right.
Multiple civilizations could have come and gone, left biological robots behind that we call grays, because we don't
To listen to the rest of this interview, please go to inceptionradionetwork.com and register for the Insiders Club. What is the Insiders Club? The Insiders Club is our premium content, what you've just listened to. Now, what you've just listened to is a preview of that premium content. The Insiders Club is how we pay the bills. It's how you support IRN. You join forces with IRN to get the truth out there. Now, a lot of our content is free. I mean, most of our content is free. All of our live shows are free. If you go to our archives, the vast majority of our archives are for free. But to pay the bills, to help make sure this network stays alive, stays viable, we offer those who really love our radio station, our network, and our shows an ability to support our network and become a part of IRN. Actually join forces in helping us get the truth out there. Now, how do you do this again? You go to inceptionradionetwork.com and you subscribe for the Insiders Club, and you'll have access to all of our archives, including this show, the rest of the show. A faster way of getting there, go to the description below this video and click on the link. And like I said, you'll be joining forces with IRN. You'll have availability of all of our content, and we really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Lorian Fenton here, host of the California MUFON radio show, asking if you'd like special access to exclusive and amazing information about UFOs, the paranormal, and all things unexplained. If you're nodding yes, then join IRN's Insider Club. As an Insider Club member, you'll get an all-access pass to premier Inception Radio Network content for only $4.99 a month. This includes live UFO and paranormal conferences, live streaming UFO skywatches, exclusive IRN radio and TV productions, and of course, paying radio with MJ and Ken Storch. So don't wait any longer. Visit inceptionradionetwork.com and click on Member Login to join IRN's Insider Club and get your VIP access today.
To listen to the rest of this interview, please go to inceptionradionetwork.com and register for the Insiders Club. What is the Insiders Club? The Insiders Club is our premium content, what you've just listened to. Now, what you've just listened to is a preview of that premium content. The Insiders Club is how we pay the bills. It's how you support IRN. You join forces with IRN to get the truth out there. Now, a lot of our content is free. I mean, most of our content is free. All of our live shows are free. If you go to our archives, the vast majority of our archives are for free. But to pay the bills, to help make sure this network stays alive, stays viable, we offer those who really love our radio station, our network, and our shows an ability to support our network and become a part of IRN. Actually join forces in helping us get the truth out there. Now, how do you do this again? You go to inceptionradionetwork.com and you subscribe for the Insiders Club, and you'll have access to all of our archives, including this show, the rest of the show. A faster way of getting there, go to the description below this video and click on the link. And like I said, you'll be joining forces with IRN. You'll have availability of all of our content, and we really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Lorian Fenton here, host of the California MUFON radio show, asking if you'd like special access to exclusive and amazing information about UFOs, the paranormal, and all things unexplained. If you're nodding yes, then join IRN's Insider Club. As an Insider Club member, you'll get an all-access pass to premier Inception Radio Network content for only $4.99 a month. This includes live UFO and paranormal conferences, live streaming UFO sky watches, exclusive IRN radio and TV productions, and of course, paying radio with MJ and Ken Storch. So don't wait any longer. Visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com and click on Member Login to join IRN's Insider Club and get your VIP access today.
To listen to the rest of this interview, please go to InceptionRadioNetwork.com and register for the Insiders Club. What is the Insiders Club? The Insiders Club is our premium content, what you've just listened to. Now, what you've just listened to is a preview of that premium content. The Insiders Club is how we pay the bills. It's how you support IRN. You join forces with IRN to get the truth out there. Now, a lot of our content is free. I mean, most of our content is free. All of our live shows are free. If you go to our archives, the vast majority of our archives are for free. But to pay the bills, to help make sure this network stays alive, stays viable, we offer those who really love our radio station, our network, and our shows an ability to support our network and become a part of IRN. Actually join forces in helping us get the truth out there. Now, how do you do this again? You go to InceptionRadioNetwork.com and you subscribe for the Insiders Club, and you'll have access to all of our archives, including this show, the rest of the show. A faster way of getting there, go to the description below this video and click on the link. And like I said, you'll be joining forces with IRN. You'll have availability of all of our content, and we really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Lorian Fenton here, host of the California MUFON radio show, asking if you'd like special access to exclusive and amazing information about UFOs, the paranormal, and all things unexplained. If you're nodding yes, then join IRN's Insider Club. As an Insider Club member, you'll get an all-access pass to premier Inception Radio Network content for only $4.99 a month. This includes live UFO and paranormal conferences, live streaming UFO sky watches, exclusive IRN radio and TV productions, and of course, paying radio with MJ and Ken Storch. So don't wait any longer. Visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com and click on Member Login to join IRN's Insider Club and get your VIP access today.